Welcome to the Organizational Agility webinar. I'm really excited about this opportunity to share my views on achieving agility at scale. Today, we will talk about how large or enterprises can benefit by taking a hard look at some key areas in their agile transformation journey. If you're joining by phone only, if you could grab a device that would allow you to participate in the poll questions, we have a few poll questions spread throughout this webinar, and you'd be able to vote anonymously. So here's a quick intro about me. I'm an enterprise agile coach with more than 20 years helping enterprises achieve business agility at scale. I'm a certified SAFe 5.0 program consultant. Most of you might know what that is. Passionate about technology, digital transformation, and training executives and teams on utilizing agile methods to improve business outcomes. So let's begin with our first poll question. Hit the link that you see here on a screen, open a new browser window, and just type in ahaslides.com/10agile. And let us know the role that you play at work. Let's begin our conversation today by setting the context and setting the agenda. And we'll start the discussion by talking about transforming the way of working. What is organization agility all about? How agile teams have come to the fore, and how lean thinking and agile principles have been at the core of sustaining growth across the enterprise. We'll also look at the flow of value, organizing around this important concept of flow of value, transforming the work environments, and inculcating a sense of safety and transparency that has allowed agile teams to self-organize, share, and grow organically into a winning team, and then sustain those winning ways. Finally, we end the webinar by a brief on strategy agility, how the Scaled Agile Framework can assist in providing a blueprint, a roadmap to scale agile to the enterprise. So this is likely a familiar concept. And if you've been exposed to agile in some way, you may have seen or heard people talk about the 12 principles behind the Agile Manifesto. These principles have guided teams in decision making by keeping in mind the intent, the values that are core to the manifesto. So by following these principles, teams have transformed the way they work together. And if you're new to these principles, I recommend the Leading Safe class, which is a great way to get started on the agile journey, not just for teams, but also for managers and leaders. And make use of the chat window to ask questions, and I'll try and address as many as I can, given the time box. And if any of those exceed our time box, I'll do a follow-up email with those. So here we have an excerpt from the Scaled Agile Framework, essentially a list of safe principles that provide guidance to the team. And even to the team of teams and the enterprise at large. So are these 12 principles, are these replacing the 12 agile principles? Well, not really. As agile adoption grew across the enterprise, at their face value, the 12 agile principles were difficult to scale, and they left a lot to be desired. So safe principles such as taking an economic view, which is the very first one that you see here, applying systems thinking, building incrementally with fast integrated learning cycles, they provided the guidance that enterprises could readily utilize in scaling agility to the program level, to the portfolio level. So in some cases, in my experience, I've heard that the principles, this entire framework is becoming a lot more prescriptive compared to some of the other frameworks that might be out there. But in my experience, no agile implementation that I've seen so far that I could identify as a vanilla implementation And it's always left to the champions on how best they can assess the current state of agility or agile maturity, and then judiciously apply these principles to benefit the enterprise. So let's keep these on the side for now. We'll revisit the agile team construct. So most of you are familiar with the agile team construct. In simple terms, you have a team that has a scrum master, a product owner, and then the rest of the team. And notice how the group of team members here, they're not called out as a group of developers in QA and UI. And that is because the team does not have to be a technology or development team to be an agile team. It's a group of individuals that have been brought together. They have diverse skills, and they start embracing the 12 principles of agile to manage to essentially transform the way of work. They self-organize. Um, they work in 2 to 3 week increments to deliver value. And this could be your marketing team. This could be an HR team or a finance team. And it could definitely be, most definitely be a technology team. The underlying um, statement is that the 12 principles of agility still apply. So if we have transformed, or at least at the surface, started to identify agile teams for each function or department within the enterprise, how do we then take the next step and take the learnings that are inculcated in the lean thinking approach to extend all the way to the enterprise? So if this is a typical enterprise where you have software applications that are um, that various teams are making use of to build the business solutions, each of these teams is now an agile team. So how easy or how difficult is it for these non-development teams to transform the way of work and start using agile principles to get better? Can something that works for development teams also work for marketing or HR? Is the work product different? I mean, a lot different than just writing code. Let's see how these non-development teams can benefit from the not only the 12 principles of Agile, but really truly from the Scaled Agile Framework. So we have a 3-step approach in extending agility and taking it one step further to the program level and all the way to the enterprise. So we've got the local agility, which is part of this first step. Be agile, start with agile teams. The safe approach is to start with the core construct of the agile team. You have a backlog that the team starts to work off of as a product owner and a scrum master, and the team starts to operate on the same cadence as the rest of the enterprise. Step 2 is to join the value stream and the agile release train, which is supporting that value stream. Now, we covered this entire concept to a great detail in the 2-day leading safe class. And that is what I recommend if you're new to the concept of release trains and value streams. Finally, as the teams iterate and they begin creating increments of value, they start to see how their contributions are helping the system operate. The cadence provides them a rhythm that's needed to build on the success that has been achieved in the earlier iterations. So with this cycle that your team is now practicing, they get better at practicing the agile methods. They even customize those methods to fit their needs. They could start evaluating, assessing, and even discarding what doesn't work and keeping and perfecting what does work. So here's a look at agility being applied to the function of HR. With the lean mindset, values, and principles, how could you turn an HR team into an agile team and um, get them better at hiring, engaging, and retaining people? recognizing that knowledge workers work the best when they are empowered, they are engaged, and have the autonomy to reach their full potential. And that's the new talent contract. Everyone in the enterprise understands the business mission and they're engaged in meaningful work. Hiring for culture fit, becoming part of the dynamic team, and retaining employees that flourish in this type of culture. Performance reviews, and some enterprises have even eliminated annual performance reviews. Instead, they review performance iteratively. They have instituted peer reviews and really truly adapted to the transparent and trust that is key to the entire agile operation. When we talk about money, taking the issue of the money off the table, money is definitely an incentive, but maybe not the only incentive. So replacing it with the right incentives can attract the right kind of talent that you're looking for and even help in retaining the talent. And finally, provide rewarding work that supports growth and not just climbing the hierarchical ladder. So now that you've hired the right talent, and it's equally important to create the right environment for them to succeed. Let's have a look at the agile working environments. A few areas to review that can support the team collaboration, especially in the current work environment and the work from home scenario that we operate in today. The team collaboration tools, especially the team workspace that you may have um, created for your agile teams to co-locate and work together, that obviously isn't working anymore because everyone's working remote until the time that we can all safely go back to office. However, the buddy system can still work, where team members can keep each other informed. You could revisit the working agreements, reserve time for reserving social time, making use of pair work, and all these can keep the momentum going. Zoom happy hours are a common knowledge. I think I just picked up this news that Zoom is now uh, taking away the 40 or 45-minute limit that they had on their free meetings, given the holiday time that's approaching. And I've also heard teams getting together while practicing social distancing protocols. Another area that I found to be extremely important is fine-tuning your online meetings, because running those effectively is extremely valuable. So here are a few things to keep in mind. And when I bring up this list, just know that this is not an exhaustive list by any means. It can most definitely be customized to run the meetings effectively. So definitely maintain a time box, um, pre-configure the WebEx, the Microsoft Teams, or Zoom meeting, whatever tool of choice you have, and conduct a dry run. Make sure that the pre-work for that meeting is easy to follow, and create short videos and communicate regularly about the upcoming meeting. You can also use a lot of tools out there that can enhance remote participation. We're actually using one today as part of this webinar, which is AHA Slides. There are a few others that I know that have been in regular use, such as Mural. There are certain whiteboard tools that are out there. I'm sure others know of new and interesting ways to keep the remote participation encouraging. Mentimeter is another one that I've heard a lot of teams use. And finally, if you can grab a co-host to facilitate the meeting, co-facilitate the meeting, in fact, where the co-host can respond to questions that are coming in through the chat window, and they can respond to those questions real time in order to keep the conversation alive. A co-host is also helpful, especially if you're dialing in and you may face a network outage. Your co-host could help fill the gap and also help you validate that the audio video functionality is working. So here's our next poll question. Go ahead and click the link on ahaslides.com/10agile, and you're going to see a scale that has values from 1 through 5, where 1 indicating strong disagreement with the statements that you're going to see on the survey, and 5 indicating that you strongly agree with those statements, such as agile technical teams are cross-functional, long-lived, and relentlessly improving. How much of that is true within your work environment? So these questions and these statements, I should say, are borrowed from the assessment tool that is available for free download on the SAFE site. And I'll include the link in my follow-up email for this webinar so you can download the entire Excel sheet. I've only been able to take a subset of these statements that I found would probably be a best fit for our discussion today. So go ahead and take the survey, and we'll wait another 30 to 45 seconds as we see the results roll in. You can see how these results are adding up, and these are being collected anonymously. You can definitely use the same survey tool to run the survey for your enterprise, and it provides uh, information that is point in time. It also gives you a clue into how these teams are thinking about um, the agile transformation journey per se. And it's always interesting to look at the results that come out with these surveys. For example, it looks like we're getting the most the strongest agreement with leaders are trained in as lean thinking managers and teachers, and they're continuing their learning journey. Looks like business teams are not always on the train, and they don't necessarily participate all the way. I still see these numbers change, and as more results are coming in. So this is another good approach that you can take with your teams and team of teams to run through the survey results. Thanks so much for participating. Let's continue our conversation a bit further on the agile working environments. Visualizing the work is a very important step as you progress in your agile transformation journey. You could start by creating personas to visualize customers, making those readily available and easy to access, as they're always top of the mind. You're thinking um, as your customer, so you're always thinking in terms of what is valuable to your customer. Making use of Kanban to visualize the flow of work. I've seen a lot of agile tools out there that have Kanban boards built in. That makes it really easy. Mapping your value streams, which we'll discuss a bit more later today, is another way to visualize the flow of work. Tracking the health metrics at the solution level, such as open close tickets, daily, weekly, monthly volume, and adhering to service level agreements. This has been long practiced by agile teams to visualize solution health. And finally, visualizing strategy by reviewing the current and potential epics that may be in flight. Visualization as a method helps you convert the abstract to a tangible form, and it aligns everyone to the actual current state. And that is why I think it is such a powerful method to build organizational agility. So now let's switch gears and resume our discussion on how those non-tech or non-development teams can join the agile journey. A few slides ago, I had introduced the three-step approach for these teams. Step one was to create the agile team that has a scrum master, a product owner, and the individuals with various skills to deliver value. And if you recall, step two was to join the value stream. And this is where we find there are two types of value streams that you see here on the slide. You've got an operational value stream that has people and systems that deliver end user value. So an example that you see on the screen is someone applying for a loan. They go to your website, get a quick rate code, they fill in the application, and from there on, they're waiting to hear back from you. On your end, how long they wait, that'll depend entirely on how fast their application gets processed, what's their place in the line, and how quickly can you turn that input into value. So say it takes about a week to 10 days for the loan to be finalized. Underwriters are going to write the loan, payment terms are set up, and the customer begins to repay the loan. So all these steps, starting with the trigger, which was a filled in loan application, to the delivery of value with the dollar sign that you see here, which could be the disbursement of the loan, the periodic repayment of the loan, and ultimately closing the loan. That in its entirety represents the operational value stream. And there are more details on the SAFE website. I'll discuss this concept at length if you're interested in learning about the distinction between the two. The development value streams, which are comprised of people who build these systems, is where you would likely see agile teams define, build, test, and deliver functionality. So it's important to understand the distinction between the operational value stream and the development value streams, because you'll probably see these teams that are creating value either as enhancing a product, going through resolving production defects, or even a net new product development. They're all going to be part of the development value stream. So if you're looking to get better at delivering value, which we saw as an activity of the development value stream, then mapping the value streams, identifying the process time, the associated delay, is the next step in ascertaining which areas have the most delay and where our effort has the best chance of improving the time to market. So the sample value stream on the slide that you see here has a total lead time of 29 days, which means it could take as much as 29 days for an increment of value to pass through the system, to be delivered to the end user. The total processing time is 4 days, which can also indicate that in an ideal scenario, where all the wait time has been reduced to 0, you could get the increment of value as soon as 4 days. Now, I guess it's a no-brainer that you would always say yes to 4 days. So you being the customer, right? So how do we get the lead time down as much as possible so our customer isn't waiting that long? Because if the customer is waiting that long and there is a competitor who could get the same value to the customer in less amount of time, guess what? Now your customer's looking to move or take their business away from you. So mapping value streams, and enterprises have many of them. It allows a very objective view into the areas where improvements can be made. There's a 2-day course on SAFE as part of the SAFE curriculum, which is the DevOps course that's actually structured in a workshop on mapping the value streams, not just the current state, but also the future state. They do that with the mapping those with the value stream canvas, and also takes you through the various agile methods and practices that can be employed to reduce the wait time and design the future state. So if you're interested in learning more about that concept, that's the class I would recommend. Implementing flow. Here we are seeing a Kanban board that is used to track flow of work items through the stages of a process, and each stage has a work in process limit number right next to it. So the messaging has a number 3, staging has the same number, releasing indicates a work in process limit of 1. And what that indicates is it's essentially providing a way to throttle the work items coming into that stage or being pulled into that stage. Now remember, Kanban, if you've been exposed to Kanban, it's a pull system, which is used at every level in SAFe to manage the flow of work. So if you were to look at a team Kanban chart, these work items could represent user stories, and with the different stages that a user story typically passes through. You could apply the same concept at the program and the portfolio level. If you were looking at the portfolio level Kanban, now each of these work items would be epics, with going through the various stages. So implementing flow with the Kanban method allows you to assess the capacity and match it to the workload. And it can also help identify bottlenecks. So if you see a particular ticket in a given stage for a long duration of time, you know something's wrong over there, and you may need the team to swarm and fix that bottleneck, or get rid of it and get the ticket to resume the smooth flow. And most agile tools have Kanban charts and reports that come out of the box. So once you have set up your Kanban stages, then it really comes down to pulling reports, and the tool will automatically generate these reports for you. If you've been using Jira or Rally or PlanView, or any of the other ones that are out there, I think Kanban reports are kind of standard out of the box. So let's see how you assess the lean business operations at your organization with this next poll question. Go back to the link for AHA slides, and I'm going to activate a similar poll question looking at the lean business operations, how you assess those. So it's interesting to see as results are rolling in. I'm not really surprised. I think I've seen a similar feedback at one of the prior sessions. The concept of development and operational value streams isn't really truly um, understood at the enterprise level, or even the concept of value stream as such. So it's no surprise that the value stream mapping activities aren't conducted on a periodic basis. You may have identified value streams up front, but it's always good to revisit the value stream, say every 6 months, or every year for sure, but every 6 months, I guess, given the fast-paced environment that we operate today. Process times and delays are made visible and measured. I see a strong agreement and kind of leaning towards that. So that's great. There are very few who are saying that those are not being made visible. And bottlenecks and delays, this is kind of middle of the road. Some people are saying, yes, that's great. We are getting these impediments addressed quickly. Some others feel that that's not really truly the case. So thank you for participating in this survey. Let's go back and continue our conversation. We're nearing the end of what we wanted to cover today. And I briefly wanted to touch on the topic of strategy agility, which in itself is a huge topic on its own. So I'm keeping this topic at a high level today. The strategy agility is defined as the ability to sense changes in market conditions and implement newer strategies quickly and decisively when it's necessary. So capabilities that are developed to achieve strategy agility include market research that tracks the market changes and that can spot those opportunities quickly. You could build practices that encourage innovation, such as a lean startup approach that can test a hypothesis and utilize the MVP, the minimum viable product, to ensure that the customer can get something in their hand, provide feedback, and you can learn from the regular feedback that keeps coming by the customer looking at the end product, or someone who can represent the customer. And the lean startup approach is a good way to continuously prioritize and keep those items that top of the priority list that you feel are the ones that are going to provide the biggest ROI. Implementing changes in strategy, and this is an extremely important part because it goes to the core of strategy agility. You'd like the changes to percolate easily and effortlessly. If a change is identified at the portfolio level, if, a, if an epic that was not prioritized or was not funded 6 months ago, but it has, the time has come for that epic, the work to take place for that epic, and you have to pick it up and run with it. It shouldn't take you 3 months or 6 months to act on it. You should have a fairly transparent, smooth system all the way from portfolio to program to team, where the items can flow into the backlogs, can be picked up on a cadence, and have the teams churn on those items and create value. So implementing those changes, communicating those changes clearly, and ensuring that they can uh, go, find their way into the team backlogs without a lot of delay is important in implementing strategy agility. Innovation accounting focuses on getting the enterprise to start thinking about leading indicators that are truly a measure of progress for the enterprise. There's a lot of focus on lagging indicators. You may have heard the term around vanity metrics. Those might look good on paper, but they are really not true measures of progress. So embracing the concept of innovation accounting is an important aspect. And ignoring sunk costs. I'm reminded of a case study when Amazon decided to enter the smartphone market segment. I think some of you might recall this was Amazon decided to create a Fire smartphone. That was the label, that was a brand under which they came up with a smartphone. This was a while back. I'm not sure exactly how long ago, but they did not stay in that space for a long time. Maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, I don't know how long, but it was a very short duration. What they found was that they had entered a very mature market segment. And no matter how much money they sunk into the smartphone segment, it wouldn't help them achieve the goals that they had and wouldn't necessarily align to the strategy that they had in mind. So, what did they do? They absorbed their costs and they pivoted without mercy, without guilt. They went back to their strength, and you don't hear about the smartphone thing anymore. Uh, and it's extremely hard for enterprises to make those decisions because of the huge cost associated with it. So don't look at the cost as the only measure. If you've if you're spending good money after bad money, that's never going to lead to any beneficial results. And we've been talking about the concept of value for a while now. So organize around value and um, periodically visit those value streams, reorganize around value. And finally, embrace agile contracts. The agile contracts favor a collaborative approach, working with the vendors and partners. And it's based on the agile principle of collaborating with your customer with instead of contract negotiation. So there's a lot more to discuss on each of these capabilities. And there's a 3-day lean portfolio management course that's a really good investment if you're looking to learn more about strategy agility and how to transform your project management office in the portfolio management space. For now, I'll keep this discussion at a high level and get us to our last poll question. And these statements that you're voting on, they are part of the free survey sheet that is available for a free download off of the SAFE website, which I'm going to include in the follow-up email that I sent out for this webinar. Thanks again for your time and participation. I appreciate your time and have a good night.